So it's currently 1:11 Pacific time on May 1st. Let's get started with today's webinar. So I always love the topics that we present on, and I can be a bit biased sometimes, I think, but today's is one in particular that I am extremely passionate about. So I love the power of social media and how it can positively impact business growth. In particular, today's presentation will be focused around using LinkedIn by one of my favourite guest presenters, Charlie Van Derven from Social Advisors. So thank you, Charlie, for joining us today.
Beth, you're too kind.
All right, so my name is Beth Kowaleski and I'm the Marketing and Partner Manager here at Advisor Websites. I look after all marketing activities, including webinars, emails, content, as well as our list of preferred partners. Just a quick explanation about Advisor Websites for those who haven't heard of before or joining us for the first time. So Advisor Websites help financial advisors build high quality, compliant websites, all without the use of any coding. So we integrate with many technology companies that help with things like capturing leads, adding meaningful content, and with CRM management. Ultimately, our goal is to help financial advisors grow their businesses by growing their online presence. Joining us as well is a very special guest, Charlie Van Derven, who is the president of Social Advisors. Charlie is a marketing veteran and started Social Advisors to help financial advisors with their marketing. So Social Advisors are a full service marketing and creative agency that focus on content marketing, lead development, email marketing, social media management, LinkedIn prospecting, as well as sales funnels. And one of the biggest things Social Advisors do is provide coaching and strategy for LinkedIn. And we're very lucky to have Charlie speaking with us today about how you can actually start prospecting on LinkedIn, as it is such a great platform. In 2019, having a social media strategy in place for your business is a must. However, developing a strategy can be difficult for any business, let alone one in a highly regulated industry. Throughout the next few slides, I'll be breaking down the importance of having a presence on social media and how to create a strategy that optimizes your efforts. There are a couple of main reasons why social media is such an important component of your digital marketing strategy. And the first is building brand awareness. So a recent survey by Forbes found that 85% of financial advisors are currently using social media to generate traction for their business. And what does this mean for you? That even if you're not utilizing social media to keep your business top of mind for your prospects, your competitors most likely are. So keeping your social media up to date with relevant content that offers true value to your audience is one of the best ways to generate engagement and increasing your following. Once you have a strong strategy in place, you'll see your organic reach will grow as followers share your content. Beyond building your brand awareness online, social has another huge benefit on your business's ability to generate leads. And this is because of its ability to increase your credibility with Google. So this matters because the majority of people will research a service or business online before making their purchasing decision. So having a strong presence on multiple social platforms can help your search rankings with Google in two ways. First way is by linking your social media accounts to your website. You're increasing your SEO. As Google bots crawl and index your website, your social media accounts add legitimacy and credibility, which means that you have a higher chance of standing out on the first few pages of a search result. Secondly, many people forget that your social media accounts also rank independently on Google search pages. Therefore, each platform that you're on creates additional opportunities for your business to be found within a Google search. And then the third way is that social media can significantly impact your business with its ability to build trust with your audience. It provides you with the opportunity to share your knowledge and expertise and position yourself as a thought leader within your industry. In a way, this is your chance to humanize your brand by showcasing or showing your personality. Depending on what content you're sharing, this is where things can become difficult. And to be sure you're safe, always check with your compliance team before posting. But I will go into this in one of the following slides about different content ideas as well as compliance issues to avoid. In that same Forbes survey that I mentioned before, financial advisors found that using their social media to educate prospects helped drive business back to their websites and expedite the onboarding process for new customers. So whether you're building brand awareness, increasing your SEO, or building a relationship and trust with your audience online, social media's impact should not be underestimated. We all know that social media is important, but a question we are frequently asked, and I'm sure Charlie is asked this all the time, is which platform should I be on? Here are some different statistics for you. These stats have come from an article produced by Forbes. So for Facebook, around 74% of Facebook users use Facebook for their businesses to have visibility and gain traction for their business. Twitter is a great space to have an instant connection to your followers. And then research found that 62% of financial advisors use LinkedIn to find new prospects and customers. From that 62%, 32% of those financial advisors increased their assets by more than $1 million from new clients. This statistic just blew me away, and just how relevant today's webinar is for you and your business growth. So personally, I always recommend LinkedIn, especially when you see that a third of people who use it for prospecting see such huge results. And that's what Charlie will be talking about shortly. And I'm subscribed to Social Advisor's emails, and the email I received today is perfectly suitable for the topic that that we're talking about. To paraphrase the email, most people go onto Facebook when they are bored and to see what's going on with their friends and family. So Facebook is a time filler, and that's the mindset people are in when they are on that platform. However, when you go onto LinkedIn, you are in a professional mindset. You always have intent when you go on LinkedIn. So thinking about this, it actually makes sense that prospecting on LinkedIn is going to yield results, because this is the headspace that people are in when they're on that platform. So now you've decided you want to do a little bit more on social media, you have to think about what content can I post. But most people will think that coming up with content is really hard, but it can actually be quite easy. So the list on the screen contains 9 different ideas. So if you chose 8 of these and post twice a week on a 4-week rotation, this gives you a great mix of content, and you just have to think of, one photo, one video, one article every 4 weeks to post, which is totally achievable. So some of the ideas include questions or polls. So you could ask your followers whether they prefer to own or lease a car, or what is your ideal retirement. Remember that social media is a way that you can be professional, but you can also show personality. So, people are interested in lifestyle things that are still relevant to their financial situation. With photos, so once again, you can post photos relating to your business. You could use something, humorous. You can use infographics. The photo options are endless. With videos, you can use cartoon explainer videos, or even you getting behind the camera to talk about something relating to your business or a hot topic in the industry. You can use call to actions, and I actually recommend using this on pretty much every post you do anyway, because call to actions help drive traffic to get a desired result. So this could include contact us, find out more, read more, download now, book an appointment, and many more. Articles are a great thing to share on your social channels. So there are different types of articles you could share. It could be a blog post from your website, industry news, or some companies are actually really great at thinking outside the box and using trending topics. A recent one I heard of was when there was a celebrity death who actually passed away without a will. A financial advisor started actually doing a couple of posts around the importance of a will and what happens in that situation. So you just have to be really classy about how you do it if you are going down that line. But there are so many strategies outside the box that you could do. If you have any events that you do with your business, whether it's webinars or people come and learn about a particular topic or something like that, totally promote your event on social media. You can post common questions. So I'm sure all of you could rattle off at least 5 questions that you get asked all the time, either by your existing clients or by people who are interested in services. So if people are already asking you these questions, you can guarantee that more people are thinking them. So answering common questions can really help turn prospects into clients through your social channels. You can promote your you can promote your products and services that you offer. So this might relate back to that point before about common questions, but showcasing your services and product offering is excellent, especially if your offering is really niche, or even if it's really broad, it's still appropriate. And then staff bios. So I mentioned before, but don't forget to promote yourself and your team. After all, social media is all about being social, so don't forget to add that human component. Now, let people get to know you and your staff, because this helps build rapport with your current clients as well as future clients. And social media can also be trial and error. So you need to try a few different things to see what type of results you receive from the different types of things that you post. So for example, you might find that photos and videos could result in high engagement. However, articles or common questions could result in directing traffic to your website, which is also really important. So there are also a few things that you shouldn't promote on social media or shouldn't do as a financial advisor. So you're actually not allowed to advise clients through social media. So if people are asking questions, direct them to contact your office or make an appointment to discuss further. Don't answer financial questions on your social channels. So unfortunately, as financial advisors as well, you're not able to promote your testimonials. This also bleeds into that third point on the screen, as you cannot make promises about financial results. I'm sure this is something you all already know anyway. And finally, just be aware of FINRA and your compliance agency regulations. So some of these have been touched on already, but each agency will have different regulations. So it's important to touch base with them to make sure what you're posting is correct and to speak to them before you post things or start posting. So now I'm going to hand it over to Charlie to teach you about how you can grow your business using LinkedIn.
All right, thank you, Beth. Hold on one second here while we figure out the technology and share my screen. First, a huge thank you to you and the folks at Advisor Websites. I've been working with financial advisors in a marketing and business development capacity, Beth, I don't know if you knew it, but more than 20 years. And Advisor Websites has been a mainstay in this industry for well over a decade at this point. So what I like about Advisor Websites is not only are we seeing Advisor Websites for the websites that they provide for hundreds, thousands of advisors across both Canada and the United States, but also it's a great conversion tool. So we love our partnership with you guys, and thank you again for the invite to join you today on this webinar. What we are going to talk about today is LinkedIn, and I know you talked about Twitter and Facebook, but for advisors, LinkedIn is the place to be. And certainly, what I want to share is, we've been working with this platform for a long time, and social advisors have compiled a lot of data, and out of that data, developed 3 very specific routines that advisors can very easily implement, even as a result of our call today, that is going to make a very significant difference. Okay, and we'll focus on LinkedIn and we'll focus on branding. Specifically, we're going to focus on LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Beth, in a long career in the industry, working in a business development capacity, I can very confidently say LinkedIn Sales Navigator is the single best sales tool I've ever used. And I'm going to show you, some of the ways that we use it, some of the ways that we coach advisors to use it. I would say it's probably responsible for about 60 or 65% of our new revenue, and it can be that way for advisors as well. So with that, I'm going to jump in, and I'm going to click a little bit between this PowerPoint that you see now, and then I'm also going to do a little bit of live demo of the Sales Navigator platform and show you those routines. So we'll get some hands-on. Hopefully everything works well with technology. So we'll dive right in. So what's a good presentation without some statistics, right? I say that kind of tongue-in-cheek. Lots of numbers to back up our claims. The one I like at the bottom center there is 80% of leads sourced online, business-to-business leads sourced online, are sourced directly through LinkedIn. So when I'm in a live in-person setting, I always ask for a show of hands. Who's on LinkedIn? And just about everybody in the room will put their hands up. And then I say, who uses LinkedIn? And about 90% of those people will bring their hands down. Because over the years, you've probably all been invited to use LinkedIn. And so chances are most of you have set up a profile at this point. But what I find is that most people don't know how to really use the platform. They build a network, they might post some content here and there. But most people don't know how to use the platform to actually leverage it for business development and prospecting. That's what we're going to talk about today. So if you're not sourcing leads and clients from LinkedIn, you're not using it to its full capacity. So now, before we dive into those routines, we're going to go through 7 steps total. So 4 steps to kind of set you up to get ready to implement these routines. And then the final 3 steps are going to be the 3 routines, 1 daily, which is about a 5-minute routine, 1 weekly that takes you about a half hour, and then we've got a monthly routine as well. So we'll get into those. But before we do that, we need to make sure that your brand looks as good as it possibly can. Here's the thing. If you implement on these routines, or at the end of our webinar, I'm going to tell you how Social Advisors works with financial advisors. If we can do some work with you, either way, you're going to drive a bunch of traffic to your LinkedIn profile. And so we want to make sure that when you drive that traffic to your LinkedIn profile, you look good, right? I mean, we want to retain that traffic and increase your credibility. So I'm going to toggle into LinkedIn here, and I'm going to pick on a buddy of mine. My friend John West lives near me in Florida here. I've consulted John a couple of times, but he hasn't necessarily implemented the changes. So John did get an invite to this webinar. So if he's on here, hey, John, once again, I'll tell you a couple updates that I'd like you to make, right? So we're going to focus on 5 different branding elements of the profile, and I'll get through those pretty quickly so we stay within our 45-minute or so timeline here. And then I also want to talk about this little box on the right called People Also Viewed. We'll hold on to that for a second here. The very first thing that we'll look at is this cover photo, right? The default background on John's profile right now, that's a background that you're going to see on a lot of profiles. LinkedIn put that profile up for John. John has not customized his background at all. When we're working with an advisor client, we typically recommend going in one of 3 directions with this background photo. Number 1, use it to reinforce your brand. Okay, so if you have an image on your website that carries through the website, perhaps you want to use that on your Facebook profile, use that on your LinkedIn profile, get your logo on that image. This is a great way to reinforce a brand that you're promoting across all of your digital and potentially print assets as well. The second way to use that cover photo is maybe to tie yourself to your community. So show a picture of, a recognizable skyline. If you're in St. Louis, maybe that's the Arch. Recognizable building, whatever that might be. And then third, we would use that to maybe show some personality, right? And I use it on my profile in that way. So if I click on my profile, I live on the Florida coast here. I love to paddleboard. That is not me. I don't have a photo that nice of me. So I went and found a complimentary stock image and used that. But it just speaks a little bit about who I am as a person, right? We're all professionals. That part of it's a given, right? You're an expert in your field, right? We know that through your designations, your years of experience. People, that's a given to most people. What most people don't get from you, from LinkedIn profiles, is about you. And really when it boils down to it, people do business with you because of you. So getting your personality in there is one option for you as well. And I think I saw a question come up here, so I'll pause. Beth, maybe let's hold these to the end.
Yeah, we can hold all questions until the end,
Okay.
But you're welcome to send them through and we'll answer everything at the end for you.
Okay, great. Okay, very good. So we got the cover photo. Now the headshot. I like John's headshot, but one thing about it is because of the very small formatting, it's difficult to see what John looks like. John's a really personable guy. I want to get that across in the photo. If you implement on some of these strategies that we talk about, you will drive a lot of traffic. What I want is people to be able to recognize you, and John's got a great smile on his face. That part of it's is well done. You want to look approachable with this photo. I see a lot of people with that kind of black and white, stern face kind of, I don't know, I call it the badass photo. Stay away from that sort of thing, right? I want you to look very approachable so that people want to talk to you. Okay. Now, third, this area here that I highlighted is called your headline. John is an advisor, COO, CCO at Spraker Wealth Management in Orlando. Now, that's John's title. I typically recommend, when people ask you what you do for a living, I typically recommend a more creative answer than I'm a financial advisor. I would recommend that for your headline as well. So you've got 140 characters here. Focus on who it is that you work with and what's the value you provide them. So for example, my headline is working with financial advisors or modern prospecting, helping financial advisors leverage LinkedIn Sales Navigator for growth and client communication. Okay, pretty simple. Now here's the significance of that. If you notice in this people also viewed box, the things that show up are three, right? You've got your photo, you've got your name, and you've got your title or your headline, right? So it's important that we structure those correctly from a branding perspective. Now the fourth thing that we focus on is your summary. John doesn't have one, so I gotta call him up again. It's been probably a month since we've spoken. What I want you to do is look at the headline is 2,000 characters maximum. We recommend that you write this in first person. That's the difference between a biography and an introduction, right? First person social media introduction, save your biography for the website. The first thing that I would recommend leading with is information about the problem that you solve for most of your clients, right? People work with you because you solve a problem for them. If that's getting them, getting the proper plan in place for retirement, if that's education planning, whatever that might be, speak to that problem first, because as we know, people have a very short attention span. Show them what you do for the people that you work with. Then you can jump into your credentials, your credibility factors, your experience, your education, your designations, and all the other things you've earned in your profession. And then what I'd recommend doing is closing with a bit of information about you. Right? Maybe talk about family a little bit, talk about the community that you live in and you work in, how you're involved in that community, the organizations that you support, your hobbies and interests, right? So if you can squeeze those few little items into your summary, people get a good feel for who you are. Great. And then fifth, what we want to look at is your network. So typically I recommend that you disconnect from other advisors. If you're connected to your competition, there is an opportunity for them to see who you're interacting with and who you're connected with. We don't want to expose, that network to your competition. Now, of course, if you're in a recruiting role or you work collaboratively with someone at a different firm, you want those people in your network. That's important. So that's an exception to that rule. But for the most part, disconnect from other advisors. And then let's focus on quality first. Connect to as many clients as you can find. Your clients are typically your best advocates. And also, we're going to talk in a little while about how LinkedIn Sales Navigator helps complement client communication. Number two, connect with as many prospects as you can find. And I don't care if they're prospects, fresh prospects from 2 weeks ago, or if it's someone that you haven't spoken to for 3 or 4 years. LinkedIn Sales Navigator is great at rekindling old conversations. Number three, connect with as many centers of influence as you can find. This is obviously another great way to grow that relationship and interact with them outside of that office setting. And number four, the last group I call other advocates. Okay, and these are people, other advocates. These are people in your life that maybe you don't see them as being future clients, but you've got a good, long, trusted relationship with them. A college roommate, second cousin, whoever that might be. You never know who they're connected to. And you can tap into their networks using Sales Navigator. So again, those are the 5 elements we concentrate on from a branding perspective: your cover photo, your headshot, your headline, your summary, and then your network. And I'm going to comment quickly on this people also viewed. This is an area that you can disable. And for most advisors that I've seen, you want to disable this, right? So here's Jay Fulbright. He's a wealth advisor at BB&T Wealth. He's a competitor of John's, right? I went to John's profile, but now I've got access to Jay. That's bad for John, right? So if you're going to put the energy into driving traffic to your profile, get rid of your competition. And if we click down on the down arrow here, and we go to settings and privacy, viewers of this profile also viewed is the 4th one down, and all you'll do is toggle that to no. And then when you come back to your profile, that people also viewed box will disappear. Cool. So now that we got the branding out of the way, pardon me, Turn us back to the beginning. We didn't want that to happen. We'll talk a little bit about thought leadership. Beth, you did a great job summarizing content. Share content often. I'm going to talk about 3 different types of content. We're going to get through it quickly because I want to get to those routines that are designed to help you grow your business. And content marketing is important. It helps to reinforce your brand, but it's not necessarily creating clients, right? I'm going to give you routines that create prospects and clients. But share content often. 3 types of content that we talk about is professional content. Most of you who work for a firm, you have a library of pre-approved content at your disposal. Share that, share it often. What I'll tell you is don't expect a lot of interaction on that type of content, right? Another article about financial planning is probably not going to get a whole bunch of people liking and sharing and commenting. But it's important that you keep that type of content out there because, you know, that is your profession, right? The second type of content that we talk quite a bit about is lifestyle content. I'll give you a couple of very quick examples. We've written a lot of blogs for advisors over the years. A couple in particular that did really well. One had a sports theme to it. And it's crazy because it really doesn't apply to a whole lot of people. But we wrote a blog several years ago. The Buffalo Bills were purchased by the Pagula family. And the Los Angeles Clippers around the same time were purchased by Steve Ballmer, all right, Microsoft Steve Ballmer. So we were working with a ultra high net worth advisor at the time, and he asked us to write a blog in this regard. And so we wrote this blog about professional sports franchises are, you know, is that a sound investment, right, for ultra high net worth. Here's what's funny, is that literally affects like 0.00002% of the population. Almost nobody can play in that sandbox of wealth, right? But because it was about sports, it went crazy, got shared a whole bunch of times, right? The other one we did, which is a little more practical for more people, is we compared the 5-year ownership of a BMW 7 Series to the high-end Lexus sedan. And if memory serves me, it's like $65,000 more over 5 years to own the BMW. So that again, because it was about cars and lifestyle, it went crazy. So think in terms of those types of topics. And then the third type, you know, like Beth was mentioning, staff bio and events. Share photos of your staff, share photos of things going on in the office, share photos of events that you host. I call that personal professional, not a real elegant term, but it gets to the point. It speaks a little bit to who you are, right? So share that type of content consistently. That is going to get the best interaction of any type of content that you share. Now, developing thought leadership, I want to comment quickly on LinkedIn groups as well. I think that, you know, LinkedIn groups are not as effective as they once were, but they do help you build a lot of thought leadership. And I'll give you a quick example of how that is. So if your firm allows you to set up a group on LinkedIn, I highly recommend that you do it. We're going to talk about prospecting in a few moments here. If you're prospecting business owners in your area, let's say, and you send out some invitations and you get connected with some business owners and you send them a nice introduction message, and in that message you invite them to join your group. Let's say you're in, you know, San Francisco, right? If you send them a message, again, introduction, you say, hey, I administer this group of business owners in San Francisco. You go from being a general advisor, right, one of many, to if you've got 200-300 members in your group, and if you invite enough people to that group, you will grow those types of numbers. You become an influencer. So if you send that message out to the business owner and you say, hey, join my group, we've got a few hundred members and it's good peer-to-peer communication. Now they see you not just as a general advisor, right, one of many. They see you as an influencer of hundreds and hundreds of business owners in their area. It positions you very differently. So while I think LinkedIn does not give enough exposure for their groups or the content within those groups, you can use it really effectively to set yourself on a different echelon as far as thought leadership within your target audience. So LinkedIn groups are great for that thought leadership. Okay, third, I want to talk know your current connections. Okay, so we already kind of commented on it when we went through the branding, your network. You got to know your connections, right? Disconnect from the other advisors as we talked about. And then as many as you can find, connect with your clients, prospects, centers of influence, and those other advocates. Now, a really simple way to see who you're connected to is to download a list of those connections. And you would do this again by going to Settings and Privacy, and then How LinkedIn Uses Your Data, and then download your data. Now, you really only need to know the connections, so you would check that box, click Request and Archive. It takes about 10 minutes. When you come back to the screen, that same button would say Download Your Archive. Now, this is a spreadsheet that makes it easy to see who it is that you're connected to. It's also, as we get into our routines, a really great tracking sheet. All right. And fourth, I highly recommend that you upgrade to LinkedIn Sales Navigator. When I ask advisors, and I try to ask every advisor that I talk with, what's the single most difficult thing about growing your business? 9 times out of 10, I get a variation of this answer: the ability to talk to new targeted people. So if you're nodding your head right now, and that is reflective of you as well, LinkedIn Sales Navigator is designed specifically to help you start new conversations with the people you want to talk to. Okay, so never cold call again. Absolutely the truth, right? So I'm gonna do a live demo at this point on how advisors get set up on Sales Navigator. We'll keep it brief because I'm keeping an eye on the clock. So maybe I got to talk a little faster, but let me jump back in and we'll take a look at Sales Navigator. This is a great tool. Don't tell anybody. I would probably pay double for it. And also, if you haven't used it before, you get a free 30-day trial of it, so you get to kick the tires a little bit. But the upgrade, $79 a month, and is worth every penny. So when you upgrade to Sales Navigator, you're going to set your sales preferences. So if you prospect geographically or in a certain industry or people at a certain type of company or function or seniority level, you will set those general parameters. What that does is it allows LinkedIn to suggest to you people you might want to reach out and say hi to. Okay. Once you set those preferences, the first step is to go to Lists and then My Network. This is going to pull in a network of every person you're connected to. Okay, so we've got, as we scroll through My Network, we're live and we're logged in as me. As we scroll through My Network, you can see all of these to the right. Interesting, it usually loads a little bit differently than this. So you can see all the people listed here, and we've got a person like Kim Geisler, who's a co-founder and wealth advisor. Now that's a person I would prospect, right? So all I do is I click on this Save button. I'll save her as an advisor. And that's going to save Kim as a lead. Now, a lead to you and me might be something a little bit different than what a lead means to LinkedIn. When I save Kim as a lead, all I'm doing is telling LinkedIn, this is a person I want to communicate with. Right? I could do the same for Martin. I could do the same for Kevin. Anyway, so go through your network and save those people that we went over a little while ago: clients, prospects, centers of influence, other advocates, those people you want to talk with. Save them as a lead. Okay. Now, before we jump in any further, I'm going to click back into the free version of LinkedIn, and I'm going to click on the home page here. So click on New Post. Now we're in a live environment, so none of this is contrived or set up. The first post on my free version of LinkedIn is Todd Jones, who is a travel concierge. This is not a person I would prospect in any way. Okay, some of you know this company. I'm going to scroll right through there. Kendall Bryce, here's a financial advisor that would potentially be somebody I'd want to talk to. Loyal Healthcare is a company that a friend of mine works at. So anyway, what I'm showing you here is that here's LinkedIn Marketing Solutions. That's an ad for me. On the free version of LinkedIn, your homepage you're going to find is kind of a hodgepodge of content, right? It's not real predictable. It's LinkedIn trying to create a good user experience for me so that I return often. And if I return often, then they can sell more advertisement to my eyeballs, right? So they want to create a good user experience so I come back to the platform often. Now, by contrast, I'm going to click on the home page in Sales Navigator. And you'll see that the only content that shows up in Sales Navigator is from one of three entities. Number one, people that I saved as a lead. So Jim Da Silva, I saved him as a lead. I know that by virtue of the fact that this button says message right here. Brandon Grable is the same. If I scroll far enough, we'll find one that says save as lead. Now, Carmine is a person that LinkedIn, based on the preferences I set, thinks I should save as a lead. So that gives me the option then to save him if I choose to. And then if we scroll deep enough, we would get company content as well. So if I save Beth as a lead and Advisor Websites made a post, there's a good chance I would see that Advisor Websites post, and that's simply there to help me start a conversation with Beth. Right? So Dave Guido is a gentleman that I've saved as a lead, or Guido. And your daily routine, we'll jump back into the PowerPoint real quick here. Importance of developing routines. In coaching for 20, 25 years, I know that if I give you information, it's difficult to implement. But if I can encapsulate that information into a routine, we see a much higher percentage of people implement on the routine. So that's why we boil things down to routine, because it makes it easier just to implement. So the daily routine: share content to your group, add new people to your network, monitor your inbox, and most importantly, start 3 conversations a day. And I'll show you, it's a super simple thing to do. After you've gone through and saved your leads, LinkedIn knows who it is you want to talk to, right? So if Dave Guido is a person I've saved as a lead, all I do is click on that message button and I send him a message. And I say, hey, Dave, I love that article that you shared about charitable giving. And I'll ask him a question. I love what it said about this one thing. What do you think about this other thing? Right? It's very simple. It's a very simple concept. It's just sending a message to Dave, right? Dave's going to respond. I'm going to respond. Dave's going to respond. And eventually I'm going to say, Dave, it's been great catching up with you on LinkedIn. Let's grab a coffee. Now, in 5 minutes a day, you go in and start 3 conversations. And you do that through private messaging. Now, for those of you whose firms do not monitor Sales Navigator, you can send these exact same messages through the free version as well, right? Now, 3 a day takes about 5 minutes. If you do that every day, every week, in 5 minutes invested daily, you're going to attempt to start 15 conversations a week, 60 conversations a month, 720 conversations every year. And literally, it's a 5-minute daily investment to find 3 people to send a message to. Okay. For those of you who nodded your head that having new conversations with targeted people is part of the issue with growing your business, this is a great way to add a ton of conversations. Now, not everybody's going to answer, but let's say 1 or 2 out of 3 a day do. You're starting 200 plus conversations a year just based on this 5-minute daily activity. That's really significant. Okay, our second routine, and I'll spare you the details of jumping back to the PowerPoint to just show you what it is an introduction routine. Right, I'll share a couple stats with you real quick. 83% of affluent people, when surveyed, said they don't like it when you ask them for a referral. So I know every sales coach is telling you you need to ask for referrals. And I've got no doubt that if you go out and you ask for 10 referrals from your good clients, you're going to get one, okay? But what you don't see based on that stat is that 8 out of those 10 people that you asked are turned off by that question or by the conversation. And it makes sense. Most of you realize that. It's a really awkward conversation to have. I've heard of it actually, that particular conversation actually splitting, clients leaving advisors as a result of asking for too many referrals. I've heard of that happening. So now the flip side of that stat, 67% of those same people, when asked, met their current advisor through a personal or professional introduction. So my advice to you is stop asking for referrals and start asking for introductions. And what's important to ask for an introduction is you need to know who your best clients and advocates are connected to. So I'm going to pull up the profile of a friend of mine. Nancy is the president and CEO of our local Chamber of Commerce here in Daytona Beach, Florida. Nancy is also a friend of mine. I've volunteered a lot of time over the years to her organization. We hang out often. I can simply click on her 500 plus connections, and so long as her privacy settings are open, I can see every person she's connected to. I sort that by geography. She's connected to 303 people here in Daytona Beach. I would also sort that by relationship. By virtue of living in this small town, we're both connected to a lot of the same people. So if I click on second degree connections, that's going to give me people that Nancy's connected to that I'm not connected to in my town here. And I want you at 214 people, so there's lots of people to get introduced to, but what I want you to pay attention to is this number. 5 of these people have changed jobs in the last 90 days. So it's got a built-in money in motion indicator right there. And what I'd simply do is I'd reach out to Nancy and I'd say, hey, Nancy, you know, how you doing? How's the dog? How's the family? How's the chamber? Blah, 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 small talk. And then I'd say, hey, Nancy, listen, I was playing on LinkedIn and I noticed you're connected to Kelly Koliopoulos. I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that right. You know, and I'd ask a couple questions. How do you know Kelly? What kind of person is she? What's a good way to meet Kelly? Right? Simple. Nancy, I noticed on LinkedIn, Kelly recently started a job at CallSource. And listen, if she's not aware of it, there's a few things she's got to take into consideration regarding rolling over her 401k when she goes to a new employer. I'd love to talk to her about it. Do you think you can make an introduction? Now, Nancy's a friend of mine. She's an advocate. She wants to see my, you know, she would like me to be successful, right? So she's going to help out in that way. Once I get that introduction, or at least get done with that conversation about the introduction, I'll simply say to Nancy, listen, Nancy, I just signed up for this tool, Sales Navigator on LinkedIn. Wow, what a great thing this is, right? That's how I noticed that you and Kelly were connected and that she recently changed jobs. I'm going to be using this a lot more. If it's okay with you, if I see anybody else in your network that I'd like to, you know, ask you a couple questions about, are you open to that? Again, Nancy's my friend. She's going to have no problem with that whatsoever. So I go from sourcing an introduction to getting permission to harvest her network a little bit more. I caution you, don't do it too often, but every time she comes in for a review meeting, every time we go grab a beer for happy hour, I'm going to have a name or two for her. That's a great way to get introduced to people, and that's our second routine. Weekly, ask for 2 introductions. Over the course of a year, that's going to be approximately 100 requests. And our data suggests you're going to be between 20 and 25% successful with those introductions. So you're likely to get a couple of new introductions a month out of that. Again, if having those conversations, starting those conversations with the right people is part of the issue for you, this is a great way to increase that volume. Now, the third routine, and I'll get through this quickly because I see it's already about 1:45, is a cold prospecting routine. And to do this, I'm simply going to click on search for leads. I'm going to grab a geographic location. Let's do Atlanta, big metro area, give us some good numbers to work with. You can see on LinkedIn, there are 2.6 million professional profiles on LinkedIn within Atlanta. And you can see there's a ton of different ways that we can sort this data. So let's say you're a 401k advisor. And you do business with HR professionals. You know, we'll throw a couple of those titles in here. You do business, I'll type out human resources too. You know, human resources specialist, or manager, director, okay. You do business with chief financial officers. Well, if I could type. You do business with controllers. You do business with business owners. A couple more titles around. There we go. That'll give us plenty to work with. So if you're an HR professional and you're near Atlanta, Georgia, LinkedIn has 226,000 professional profiles for you to browse. All right. Here's that number again. 90 of those changed jobs in the past. If we didn't have these title filters in there, that would be tens of thousands of people that, if you're into doing rollovers, it creates a great target for you. So when we coach advisors on this third routine, we coach you to reach out to 100 of these people, I'm sorry, 200 of these people every single month. I don't recommend you do this sitting down and do it to 200 people. Do 10 a day, do 50 a week. And then when we work directly with an advisor, what we do is we craft 2 follow-up messages for each new connection. If you reach out to 200 people, you're going to add 50 to 60 new connections to your network every single month. If you send those 50 to 60 people 2 follow-up messages via direct message, you're going to set up 3 to 4 sales calls every month, depending on who it is that you're targeting. So what we do at Social Advisors is we coach advisors on how to implement on these 3 routines specifically for your practice. We help you write the scripting, we help you track all the progress. And then the other way that we work with advisors is we represent advisors on LinkedIn and reach out to 1,500 people every single month that fit your target audience. And from that, we send a series of follow-up messages to your new connections and simply set up sales calls for you. So those are the 2 ways that we work directly with advisors. So again, your 3 routines, I'll kind of skip through here because we got ahead on the slides a little bit. Cold connecting done right. But your 3 routines are starting 3 conversations every single day using Sales Navigator, asking for 2 introductions a week as opposed to asking for referrals, and then having a consistent cold prospecting strategy to get you in front of new audience members of that target audience that you're trying to attract to your business. And with that, Beth, leave my contact information up here for a moment. Can reach out to me directly. That is my cell phone, which is usually a little bit scary, but go ahead and use it. We appreciate that. And one of the things that we do for absolutely anybody, Beth, is offer a 30-minute consultation where we take the time to get to know your practice a little bit better and then modify those routines to fit you specifically. Of course, you're likely to hear a little bit more information about the services we provide, but that 30 minutes is no strings attached, and I promise you'll learn something from that. So by all means, take advantage of that as well. And Beth, with that, I'll turn it back over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Charlie. Let me just share my screen back again. Okay, thank you so much. That was just phenomenal. I'm sure everyone else just loved it as much as I did. So
listen, I was moving quickly, so use that email address or that phone number if you got follow-up questions.
Well, we've recorded it, so everyone will get a copy of the recording, so you can listen to it again and pause to catch up, because if you need to. As Charlie mentioned, like, they have some amazing services that can really, really help financial advisors, not just with LinkedIn, but also with other marketing activities. One of the things that we offer here at Advisor Websites is a social media starter package, which is where we actually set up your social media accounts for you and help you create some custom content. We also have a new social media supercharge, which is where we help you post content. You get a dedicated support, social media manager, and things like that. So we do help with it. Or if you'd like to learn more about Advisor Websites and how we do things here and how we could help you, please visit advisorwebsites.com and click demo, which is circled at the top of the screen. And then you can choose a time on the calendar that suits you, and you'll then have a one-on-one chat with one of our website specialists. So the demo is totally no obligation. We'll be able to tell you about our points of difference, go through different pricing options, and help determine which one will actually suit you and your business best, as well as answer any other questions that you might have. So moving on to questions. So a couple have come through, so we'll address those first. But if you have any other questions, feel free to continue to send them through. So I'll read these questions out. Some are for me, some are for Charlie. The first one that came through was around the slide that showed advisors increase their assets by 1 million on LinkedIn. So I have that link. I actually was confused. I thought it was a Forbes article, but it was actually one produced by LinkedIn. So I'm just going to share that article in the chat field. So if anyone would like to look into that further, the article has just been posted now. Okay. So question for you, Charlie. Can you create a LinkedIn profile that is just for your firm rather than one for an individual?
Yeah, so there's a, similar to Facebook, right? You've got a firm page and then you have an individual page. It's a little bit awkward if you create an individual profile around your firm, because it really is person-to-person interaction, but then absolutely you can have a company page that represents your firm. Now, the benefits of that company page, it's a little difficult to build a following, certainly, on LinkedIn versus Facebook. But if you ever want to run ads to a target professional audience, you'll need to have a company page. So it's important if you have an advertising strategy. But yeah, absolutely, you can build a company page in addition to your individual page.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So another question for you, Charlie. How do you drive people to a LinkedIn group? You can only invite your connections.
Yeah, I'll tell you, so LinkedIn groups used to be great. I mean, like 5-6 years ago, LinkedIn groups were really heavily, based on engagement. It's not necessarily the case now. I just don't think they do a great job with their groups and the exposure of those groups. But yeah, you'd invite individuals to join that group, and you can invite anybody. You can only message the people that you're connected to. Yeah, you can, there's an exception to that, but for the most part, you can message the people you're connected to. So you would have to actually use an InMail, which is a paid private message to someone you're not connected to outside of that group of connections. So yeah, promoting a group today is a little difficult, but when you put it into a messaging strategy, those groups are really good at helping demonstrate, kind of thought influence and leadership.
Great, thank you. Do you recommend accepting all requests to link if they are not competitors? What are your thoughts around that? Because quite a few people have made comment about, they receive a lot of new connection requests. So how do you manage that?
If you can see a benefit, so we put connections into 3 categories: negative, which is your competitors; positive, which is like a target audience or people that you know; and then neutral. And I'm okay with having a whole bunch of neutral. You saw I had 4,200 connections. Reality is probably 2,500 of those are financial advisors, most of which I do not know, but being connected to them as as the group that I prospect, has an opportunity for me to gain exposure through content, for me to send them a message when I choose to. And so, if there's a benefit to being connected to somebody, or I should say if there's no harm, yeah, I've got no problem with being connected to them. Now that's an individual thought. You'll listen to people that are LinkedIn specialists that say, nope, only connect to the people that you really, really know. It's a prospecting platform. And, if you were building your practice 20-25 years ago, I know you started with cold calling. Heck, if you're a Jones advisor, you knocked on every door within 5 miles of your office, perhaps. LinkedIn is a great new platform for that type of cold prospecting. So the strategy doesn't go away. You just can't do it with the phone anymore.
You mentioned right at the start of your presentation about 5 points to do to update your personal profile. Can you just recap those 5 points, please? Absolutely.
The cover photo, make that either a brand reinforcement from your website, maybe your logo. Make that either community or, as you saw with mine with the paddleboarder, it's a little bit more about who I am and what I like to do in my hobbies. The second one is your headshot. That is make it so that you're so that's zoomed in enough so I can see what you look like, and make sure you look approachable. Right, have a smile on your face. Be somebody that others want to talk to. Your headline, you've got 140 characters to not state your title, but state your value. Right, who do you work with and what's the value you provide? Your summary, 2,000 characters, talk about the problems you solve for people, your credibility factors, a little bit more personality. And then the 5th one is that network, right? Which maybe isn't quite branding, but it's an area that we focus on. And that's, again, disconnect from competitors, connect with as many clients, prospects, centers of influence, and other advocates as you can find on LinkedIn.
Great, thank you for that. And what are your thoughts around the free LinkedIn versus paid for your profile?
Yeah, I do not work for LinkedIn. I do not get compensated by LinkedIn. I'll tell you what, that $79 for Sales Navigator is probably the best money I spend in a month.
And just to then clarify, so you can sign up for a free LinkedIn account. You can then upgrade to be able to use the LinkedIn Sales Navigator, which will automatically upgrade your personal profile. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, it's less about the profile. It's more about the data gathering and intelligence that then LinkedIn provides.
Perfect, thank
So
you.
you pay for access to that type of prospecting data.
So what is the difference
That
between premium and Sales Navigator levels?
really just so Sales Navigator is a premium service. It's just the highest level of sales service that's provided, whereas premium is more refers to the entry level. If you're gonna spend, I think it's $39 a month for premium. Spend the $79 for Sales Navigator. It's a great tool.
Perfect. All right, well, let's finish up here. So a huge thank you, Charlie, for taking time out of your day to join us. Just fantastic. One of my favorite presentations. So thank you so much. And
Awesome, Beth. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. And yeah, thank you for everyone who's jumped on today's webinar. It's always really nice to see everyone jumping on, and I really hope we've been able to teach you a lot and things that you can actually take away, practical tips to help grow your businesses. We'll be back with a new webinar in about 3 weeks, which will be around how to make your website perform to its full potential. So thank you again, Charlie, and everyone for jumping on today's webinar.